Hello everyone, welcome to the Food is a Conversation Alumni Edition. Today I am welcoming a climate shaper who joined us on the digital bootcamp this summer, and also joined us in Pollica in September. You might have seen him already live last Thursday when he had his very first live session with one of our fellow climate shapers. And till we are waiting for him to join, let me tell you a bit about these conversations. These Food is a Conversations happen twice a week, once on Tuesday and once on Thursday. We try to keep it in two different time slots to make sure that we actually cover different time zones. Why is that? Because our alumni are obviously from all over the world. The people who we feature in these live sessions are basically ecosystem members who attended any of the educational programs ran by the Future Food Institute, let it be the digital bootcamps or any of the food and climate shaper bootcamps organized by FAO and the Future Food Institute, innovation program, or other summer schools that we organized before. And there we go. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me.
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me well?
Yes, perfect. I'm very happy we could connect. So now, because you can see an account dialing in undercover, let me introduce you to Jeff O'Mahony. I'm not sure if I pronounce your last name well. I'm having sometimes struggles with that. Jeff is from Ireland and currently based in Mallorca. And why this is so exciting to host him today, besides that he is one of the alumni of the ecosystem, that he will actually help me hosting these sessions in the future. So we will split the sessions and host all of the other climate shapers and ecosystem members. So now, without any further ado, I encourage everyone, please, to ask your questions. If you have any in the chat, we will make sure that we find time at the end to answer them. And I would like to hand over to Jeff to introduce himself and maybe tell us how did he end up attending the digital bootcamp in July.
Yes, for sure. So thanks very much, Julia, for having me. It's a pleasure to speak to you and to the audience here. Very, very happy to be with you. So starting with how I kind of got to know Future Food, it was through a series of interesting events while I was pursuing my ideal career situation. So my definition of an ideal career situation is something that you enjoy, something that fulfills you, something that pays the bills, something that allows you to impact other people's lives in a positive way, and something that you believe to be in demand for the right reasons in the future. So I finished off the university. I trialed a number of different avenues and industries with this philosophy in mind. Worked as an engineer, a teacher, some social media marketing, some PR, restaurants, bars, software company, you name it. So a lot of different avenues. And as soon as I heard about the SDGs, I thought, okay, well, I've found it. I found what I would like to devote my whole career to. These 17 crucial objectives to sustain ourselves and the planet. So I got involved with a social startup crowdfunding platform based in Milan, and my intention was to be a sort of a middleman between SDG-driven businesses and provide funding for them via collaboration with this crowdfunding platform. So I volunteered to do so, and I believe that this would be my entry point to the SDG world. Even though I wasn't earning money directly from it, it was just my intention that I can put in some work now and then that it will sort of return in the future. So Future Food was one of the companies that I sourced as potential partners for this crowdfunding firm, excuse me. And that's how we started talking. So I had never heard of Future Food, but when I researched them properly and got to know them, I actually fell in love with the philosophy of how the whole team operates from top to bottom, or I suppose I should say from left to right, because it's a sort of horizontal hierarchy in Future Food. So as soon as I sort of heard about you guys and researched you properly, my mind was firing in 1,000 different directions with ideas and initiatives, short-term goals, long-term dreams, etc. So I conceptualized my thoughts. I brought them forward to the team, multiple discussions, 2 boot camps later, one online, one off. Here I am.
Very good, very good. Super interesting that everyone has very different path to get into the ecosystem. So as I mentioned at the beginning, you are originally from Ireland and now based in Spain, but you actually have spent some time in Italy before. So do you want to tell us a bit about the journey after your studies, and how did you end up with that startup, and how did you actually swap 3 different cities in Italy in 3 years?
Yeah, so yes, of course, I would love to tell you about that. Sorry, my hair is a little bit of a mess right here, but going back to the studies, so I studied in Ireland, in Cork, my hometown, and I did international commerce. So the reason I did that was because I wanted to keep my options pretty broad. So I thought international business, it covers a lot of areas. You know, I was thinking, all right, I'm 17 years old now. I don't know what I want to do for my whole career, so I don't want to get stuck in something, you know, and that. So I basically, actually, so I should mention, as part of my studies, I did 1 year of Erasmus in Genova. So that's what kind of brought me to Italy first day. And that really opened my mind to just like how important it is to get out of your hometown if you have the means, and to sort of explore other avenues and try and find out who you are on an unbiased level. So the Erasmus year kind of started to do that for me. And then I had to return to Ireland, finish off the uni, and then I went back to Genoa because I thought, okay, wow, I've got, you know, resources here, friends here, I love the city, love the country and everything. So I did that, went back to Genoa, and I had this philosophy of, you know, wanting to just try different industries and not settle for anything that wasn't fulfilling for me. And I think that self-teaching is actually a powerful means of doing that for anyone who wants to try and do it, because now with the accessibility of information that a lot of us have, you can teach yourself an awful lot. You don't necessarily have had to go to university and studied something in particular if you can teach yourself in the correct way online. So my sort of plan was simple: earn enough to survive while enjoying my life and the pleasantries that come with being young. Trying out every industry I could, and that was basically it. So I did the year in Genova, did a year in Venice, a year in Milan, and now I'm just after finishing a year in Mallorca in Spain. So it sounds great, but actually this philosophy of kind of not settling and trying to find my ideal job led to some sort of financial insecurities at times and job insecurities at times and stuff. But I always kind of thought that if I just kept knocking, I would find the open door, and I did in the end, and it turned out to be Future Food, and yeah, so I'm absolutely delighted. In fact, I like to say, so just to sort of summarize those couple of years, you know, there was a number of times in which I thought that I had sort of cracked the code, and I was like, oh, I'm sorted, you know, but it was actually just stepping stones all the while. So I almost imagine it like an old style manual lock, and there was like 4 digits to manually put in, and I had 3 out of the 4, but the lock still won't open, you know. And then I think that the whole Future Food sort of operation was the final piece, and now the lock's open, and now I can continue with it. So quite broad, really. Just tried as many different things as I could, dipping my toes in all these different industries, and trying different even lifestyles, and in the end, here I am.
Amazing. I really like the metaphor with the locks. So we had a question popping up, and I think it's very relevant to the next question I had for you, and that's about your main takeaways from both the digital and the in-person bootcamp. And the question was asking if you managed to integrate any of those learnings in your everyday life.
Yeah. So first of all, the learnings from the digital bootcamp, there were a lot, actually. There were quite a lot. I'm going to try and say something not just like generic or something here, because I felt a lot of those. Just the fact it was online, it brought people together who were from various areas and stuff. That is fantastic, and I noticed that as being a great thing. But my main takeaway, actually. Let me see here, because I kind of jotted it down, actually. Just one moment. Sorry now. So, yes, okay. So, my main takeaway was that different industries attract different belief systems from different personality types. And the Future Food Network and the alumni seem to have a collective belief system built on very profound values, the idea of an abundance mindset and prosperity thinking, for example, which was introduced to us in one of the first sessions by our friend Xavi, operating in a selfless way that benefits both humanity and the planet. So I love that philosophy. I had been a private advocate for a while, but to have it rationalized was very important for me, because it reassured me that this is a way that you can live like long term, and with everything satisfied that you need to. So that was the main one from the digital bootcamp. Moving to Pollica, and then I'll get to the answer to the question. So Pollica was incredible. Pollica was absolutely amazing. So many insights, so many memories, so many relationships that will be lasting, I'm sure. And just the ability to meet the whole team, the students, the locals. I was almost overwhelmed at some points. Particularly at the end, I kind of gave a bit of a talk, and I felt overwhelmed with like emotion and stuff, and that rarely happens for me. So I know that it impacted me a lot. So some of the older community members in particular, they've got a certain attitude towards life that's quite serene, very open, happy and healthy, and it's no wonder why they live so long. So that's the exciting thing, and one of my main takeaways from Pollica was the power of the med diet. And I personally want to live as long as I can, and I want to be happy doing it. So there's an awful lot to be learned from these 90-plus-year-olds who don't look a day over 70, and who are very, very happy. So those were the two main sort of takeaways, that this is my circle of people, the Future Food Network, the alumni. These are people that I want to be around. These are people that share my values and my sort of philosophies, and I've learned an awful lot from you guys, team and alumni. Pollica was really the mindset of the elderly there was just so admirable, and something that I really, really want to take into my adolescence. So that's it. So then, as far as the question, has it benefited me in my everyday life? Oh, geez, massive.
Yes, and how did you integrate your learnings? Yeah.
Okay. So I'm living and breathing them really. I'm basically anything that I've learned, I've absorbed like a sponge, and I'm just taking it with me in my everyday life. So I'm now actually seeking opportunities to be helpful to people in whatever situation I can be helpful, and excuse me, in whatever situation I can be helpful in, and I've just kind of, you know, I've been generally happier. I would say I've been generally quite happy with everything. Just knowing that this is a way in which you can live and you can sustain yourself long term. So I would say that's yeah, that's probably it.
Amazing. Yeah. So you mentioned the digital bootcamp, and how that kind of brought people together. And then we also started to do some extra questions and research about how digital work environments can actually shape our future, what kind of potentials they have to address topics like climate change. What is your take on that?
I think that there's a lot of opportunity for positivity in this new, excuse me, in this new sort of digital working environment. Um, so, you know, based on, if we take something as simple as the fact that the commute to work for a lot of people is now eliminated, that certainly helps from the point of view of pollution. I think that people being sort of stuck in their homes and having their homes as their offices, it's encouraged them to cook at home, to look at their diets a little bit better, to, you know, perhaps grow some of their own food as well, and stuff like that. I think that it's also perhaps kind of just put the weight of the situation on people, how kind of like, you know, depending on how you're operating in your own bubble, there are external variables that can greatly influence your life, whether you're a direct part of it or not, I would say. So that's an important thing for people to realize as well. And then of course, looking at something like COVID, thinking of what could you possibly do to, you know, at least prevent something like that or make it less likely in the future. But overall, to be honest, I wasn't really a big fan having everything sort of online, because I think it just creates a little bit of a disconnect. But I can see a lot of positivity in it as well, and I think that as long as we sort of act fast enough with you know, like just showing like how to live in a more sustainable, eco-friendly way, if we can do that now, like quickly, while people are still really sort of affected by COVID, I think that it'll be a great thing. But I just hope that things don't sort of go back to normal and people kind of just go back to the old ways of not really caring so much. That would be one fear of mine. So that's why conversations like this are important.
Yeah, I see that Radhika has a question, and that's about that indeed it was a mindful time, but do you think that in-person learning is important for community resilience?
I would say yes. I would say it is very important, but maybe not crucial. I mean, like in-person learning for community resilience, yes, it's. I think that you could probably take your learnings. I mean, I take learnings from the digital bootcamp that wasn't in person, and I implement them in my own community, and it works out quite well, you know. So I don't know if the way in which you were taught is that important. I certainly strongly remember and feel in-person interactions more, but as long as the message is clear and you're able to deliver it, then I think that, you know, just sorry, I'm keeping messages. Yeah, so I think that as long as the message is clear and the philosophy is right, then that can just be spread spread to your own community, and doesn't really matter the medium in which you do it that much, I would say.
Okay. So, and in terms of the learning experience, not necessarily how it is influencing our life, but working with people in team, we identified that few of the element of spontaneity is actually something maybe what is missing from the digital platforms. How do you see that influencing work and creating new things together?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one, really. Because I've only really been exposed to it now through Zoom and like the breakout rooms and stuff like that. I think it can be a place that like team working is possible, but if uncontrolled, I think it can be pretty hectic, and it's sort of too sporadic. You can't really sort of, like, a brainstorming session could take a lot longer than in person, just because you've got like the delay on the audio, you've got, people talking over each other, and I don't know. I think it's something that we're all sort of new to, so I think we're kind of figuring it out as we go along. So I think it has the capacity to be as well, maybe just under in-person team working, but I do think that it can get to a pretty good level, I would say, to a pretty productive level with time and with the correct sort of control measures.
Yeah, cool. So, as always, I have the same last question for everyone. How does your ideal/preferred food future look like? And you can please think out of the box if you want. It can be utopistic, it can be whatever you wish for.
Well, the ideal food future for me, it's based around inclusivity and balance. So today, actually, the global convivium really showed us the amount of like wasted resources, the amount of inefficiency with regards to food loss and waste. So that's obviously pretty annoying if we think about the current food system. So then, thinking of the food future, I would like that to be hopefully sort of resolved in some ways, which, guys like my fellow boot campers there, they're from Utangi, the hackathon winners. I really liked their presentation and their direction. So stuff like this, I think if we have enough people with the right sort of like long-term philosophy, and then the ability to act in the mini steps, I think we're going to get to a pretty nice food future. But utopian style, I'd be thinking, way more people growing their own food, and then sort of like community co-op type situations in which you just try your best to make sure that any available food resources are dispersed among the entire community by whatever means necessary, so that like nothing is wasted. I would say as well, yeah, just a sort of and I would like to see some more kind of innovation in the further thinking in the further thinking aspect. So like people thinking just further down the line than tomorrow, so that they're making their practices now to achieve those goals. And then certainly the policy makers, it's a big topic that we can all do our part, for sure. Like in our own, we can be more conscious in our decisions as consumers, but bringing the government bodies in is definitely crucial, because we just sort of a lot of times we fall under the track that's laid out for us by them. So it has to be sort of everyone involved in an inclusive food future, I would say.
Yeah, inclusivity, yeah, that's one of my keywords for the future as well. Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm super happy that I could introduce you here. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, you will see Jeff more often because, for example, Thursday morning, he will be hosting one of our next alumni. Besides that, the conversations what we referred to from the Zero Waste Global Convivium today happened actually for the first International Awareness Day for food loss and waste. And I was extremely proud to be able to feature a lot of our climate shapers. I encourage all of you, if you missed the beginning of this conversation, you will find it on Instagram TV. And then you can just swipe over to either our Facebook account or the YouTube channel, because all of the conversation has been recorded. And today, over 8 hours, the matter of 8 hours, 2 hours from that was in Italian. So that's for a limited audience. But the rest was in English, and we showcased multiple different solutions fighting food loss and waste worldwide. So we started from Japan, and then we featured our teams who were like bringing different nationalities on the tables as well. Then we had Europe, US, and back to India. So if you are interested in these solutions and further food innovation, then please check out these recordings. And for our next session, as I mentioned, it's on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Central European time. And besides that, if you would like to join us on this journey and in the future be featured in these conversations, then your chance is to apply now for our next digital bootcamp, which will start on the 30th of October. So futurefood.academy, check out the information about the different tracks, and I'm happy to receive your application. Jeff, thanks again. It was a very long day with a lot of information and a great conversation now as well to close the day with. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julia. I always enjoy chatting to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.